Fantastic. Should we get going, Elena?
Yes, go.
Excellent. So welcome formally. It's fantastic to have you here. If you're new to this, we are Think Productive. So Think Productive is a UK-based training and coaching company. We've been going, 12 years now, Elena, or are we nearly 13?
Yeah.
12.
Since 2009.
Yeah, there you go. We'll do the arithmetic. So we started here in the UK, but since then we've expanded across Western and Northern Europe. We've got teams in Australia, New Zealand, and North America as well. And throughout those 12 years, we've worked with people in all sorts of professions and work roles in all sorts of different organizations. And what we do is support with two things. Like one of them, I'm sure you've guessed already, is productivity. The clue is in the name of the company, many of our workshops, and indeed our trainers. We have to travel around the country or travel virtually around the country, rocking our Productivity Ninja business cards. Productivity, how can we do our best work? Lots of potential definitions, but we're equally interested in something that we think is inextricably interlinked with that. So that other thing, whether you call it well-being, work-life balance, stress management, having a life, that's integrated within our work. And today, particularly, we're going to be looking at the topic of human, not superheroes. So we're deep in the weeds on the well-being side this afternoon. So, Elena, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do in our team, and also tell us what you're doing in the picture? Sure.
That picture. Okay. I do improv comedy. Believe it or not, I'm in a couple of improv troupes, and all I'll say about this picture is that there was a musical involved, and that's all I'm saying.
I will get the story about
and at Think Productive, I'm the MD, and I've been with TP Think Productive since 2011, and I just make sure everyone's okay and on track.
And you do it wonderfully as well. Why don't you ask me what I'm doing in my picture?
Oh, what are you doing there in that incredible...
Funny you should ask. That is me winning first prize in the 2014 British Beard and Moustache Championships. I should Amazing. Stress not the overall national trophy. I just came first in class when I won business beard class, and I retired at the top of the bearding game. I thought that was kind of where it was going to be for the rest of my bearding life. You can see though, lockdown means all that stuff has gone, but there you go.
You're just growing it behind.
Oh, ham, yeah. You can see it's all tied up here now. Those of you who've worked with me in person before won't be used to long-haired Lee, but there you go. Those of you who have worked with us before, though, will be familiar perhaps with these characters. So these are our 9 characteristics of the Productivity Ninja that we share on several of our workshops. We've built them out of kind of different things that you would find in the stationery cupboard, around your desk area, in your laptop bag. Each of them we use to help people with different things when it comes to work and well-being. But we're not going to cover the ground of all of them today. What we're going to do is talk just about number 9, human, not superhero, which is in fact my personal favorite. If the life of a productivity ninja was just about rocking around the country or touring the Zoom world, telling people how to do more stuff, like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So human, not superhero is a really important part of our work overall, but it's also a really important part of the work that I hold very close to heart as well. What I'd like you to do is throughout the session, if you can have a look for little action ideas. So we tend to make all of our workshops very practical based. But I'm conscious that today is a little bit more conceptual. What we're trying to sort of present to you today is a mindset and a movement, but we still want you to come out with some things that you can actually use in a practical way during the afternoon. And we'll certainly be sharing those as the session goes on as well. So have a look for anything during the conversation that you can get a little bit of a tactic you could start. If you want to make an adjustment, anything you perhaps feel you need to be able to stop. Or maybe you've got the start of a really helpful behavior or approach, but you'd like to grow that. And maybe you can add that to your idea of continues. So we'll be asking you to share some of those during the rest of the session, but particularly towards the end of the session, we'll be asking you to share some of the commitments and ideas that you have noted. So here it is, number 9.
Lee, sorry to interrupt. Someone's just said that they can't see the PowerPoint presentation, so it might just be her and she's going to log out and log in, but just want to check.
Okay. Can I get loads of other messages?
Yeah, okay, Charlotte, there we go. That's enough, thanks.
It's just going like that.
As you were.
Yeah, I can see it, great. So let's talk about number 9, human not superhero, my favorite. What do we mean by this? And I'm actually going to pose that by sharing this question, like, how did we get here? And by like, how did we get here? I mean, specifically, how did we get here? How did we put up a workshop called Human Not Superhero and have over 500 people sign up within days and have 250 people actually give us part of their afternoon? There's clearly something in that message that attracted people's eyeballs. I think we got in this mess through a number of different ways over quite a number of years, but I just want to highlight 4 to kind of kick us off, because I think these are particularly in play in all the work that we do with people and organizations, but I think they particularly be in play this year. So the first one is the battle against overwhelm and distraction. So whether that's the internal overwhelm of brain overload, this is one of my favorite slides from our Way of the Productivity Ninja workshop, or whether that's the external digital overload that we've been experiencing, particularly over the last year. The email feels hotter than ever when we've been working with people on our Inbox to Zero workshops. And of course, these days, it's not just email. There's like all the other stuff that has just exploded all over our desktops and in our devices, particularly over the last year. The other thing that I think particularly has been in our mind recently is the idea of boundaries and borders. So we've come through this nearly 15 months now of very considerable amounts, historic amounts of remote working and home working. And that's done something, again, to our bubble. It's kind of further eroded the work versus life boundary. It's taken away the things that we used to do to preserve our on-duty versus off-duty modes. So there's the whole fun of virtual meetings that we've been having to work with. I hope you haven't encountered that particular one so far this lockdown. I certainly wouldn't recommend that from a health and safety point of view, although he doesn't seem to be plugged into the mains. I don't know. And then the other thing that's happening, and Julia's raised it in the chat there, when the places where we live are also the places where we work, and the rest of our lives are being transacted, it's kind of harder than ever to tune out, to switch off, to unplug, and actually get back to that kind of really important rest mode, which is a vital part of human not superhero. You can see the sleeping lion there because the lions know that they need to rest in order to prepare for the hunt. Other things that I think have come up even more so than in the past, though, these were always in play, but I think that the last year has brought them up well, is the kind of, whether you call it the imposter syndrome, or like, I'm not doing it as well as everyone else seems to be coping, am I the only person that's struggling, why am I not holding this together? Or even if you do know that everyone else is struggling a bit, that feeling that we're meant to sort of conceal and deny and hide that. I think that's happened to a lot of people this year, and sort of working out whether, like, am I getting it as right as everyone else or not is a really important point. So Theodore's helping us out there with a quote that I absolutely love. Comparison is the thief of joy. Everyone else has got their story and they're doing their best, and you're doing your story and you're doing your best, and that is quite okay.
Yes.
And then the last one, those of you who've done one of our other sessions will know about the other productivity ninja characteristic. It was number 2 on the roster before, ruthlessness. There's something about the fact that we may needed to have recalibrated our expectations of ourselves and others in the last year. So this is a slide that I've adapted from our Way of the Productivity Ninja session when we talk about ninja ruthlessness. And this confronting truth on the screen is not about saying we don't care about our work. We work with people in all sorts of organizations and settings who are incredibly passionate about their work and get a great deal of joy from it. But caring about our work doesn't mean that we should stop taking care of ourselves and of others. So this idea of ninja ruthlessness in this thing is about a realism, a pragmatism, an openness and honesty about how much capacity we have. And that actually the challenge is sometimes making the difficult choices about what we say yes to and what we need to, for now, say no to. And then the final kind of thought I wanted to share is the fact that as on top of all of those 4 things, like, it has been one big bad year. So this is the kind of, like, little chart from Lizzie and Molly back towards early lockdown, and it was trying to just calibrate people around the fact that you weren't just suddenly working from home, like you were working from home in the biggest, baddest, strangest year. And you know, the fact that we need to be a little bit more forgiving and supportive of each other and ourselves in that context was very much in play. So why do we want to share human, not superhero, as a specific characteristic to respond to some of these circumstances? I think it's got some really important messages. Some of this stuff that's coming up next, I didn't know whether to say, don't worry, the bosses aren't listening, right? Or whether I wanted to say, I really hope the bosses are listening, because there's a kind of a different thing when it comes to adjusting our mindset to human, not superhero. You know, we're the productivity company, we're the productivity ninjas. We want to equip people with the skills and the techniques that they can use to create their best work, but we don't want to do it in a way that isn't sustainable. So human, not superhero culture is about sort of opening up the conversation around the well-being side and the connection between well-being and work. They are inextricably interlinked. You cannot do one without attending to the other. And setting aside these kind of toxic workplaces where it's like, well, just sort it out, you know, I don't care what's going on in your life, how you're feeling, you know, and those workplaces exist, sadly. Human culture is about saying, we want to create workplaces and communities where people can do amazing things, but we want them to be able to do it in ways that are happy, healthy, and sustainable. That's really what the human, not superhero culture is about. So we are trying to get people to join this movement where we can be a little bit more open in workspaces around how we're feeling, how we're doing. If we need help, or it's a day where we're struggling, or we're not on form, or we've even messed up and we need forgiveness or we need help. You know, we all have those days where we put our superhero pants in the whitewash and we've messed up. And that is okay. And that is the kind of workplace where we feel that people will actually thrive and be able to do the amazing things they're capable of. And of course, there's been this added twist of lockdown. We're quite excited as Think Productive about like what we will look back on in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, about what the last year has done to sort of nudge ahead remote working, blended learning, hybrid working. We think there's some amazing things that will come out of it long term. But where we are right now, a lot of us are still experiencing things that were kind of the really hard end of the first 6 months of lockdown and remote working, which is the loss of that community of our colleagues in terms of the physical contact we used to get around the water cooler. And we're still learning how to replace that and curate that properly. And we've also we had all our routines ripped away from us. So all those kind of like signs and signals and transitions, whether they were physical transitions around commuting or whether they were kind of just things happened at certain times of the day or in certain spaces, like all those routines and rituals that gave us those sort of ground and anchor points that helped us not only define our day and our workflow, but helped us work out whether we were getting it right. Like they suddenly were missing, and we're still in the progress in some teams of recreating those. So we kind of maybe have lost track a bit of like what good productivity even looks like in this new world. And you know, we're helping a lot of organizations work through that at the moment. We've been supporting organizations throughout lockdown with work from home sessions, remote meeting sessions, and as we move into hybrid working and blended workplaces, we'll be looking at as well. Yeah, and Francis is exactly right. Not to mention what has this done on the emotional side, the motivational side. We're certainly going to move into that kind of territory in a minute as well. So a few recommendations, I suppose. This is the kind of mindset that we are finding that people need to be able to embrace in the new world of work. So you'll remember this guy from a few years ago, Robert Kelly, wonderful guy. This was back in the old world before everything changed. And those of you who've seen the BBC News clip, he'd kind of sorted everything out. He'd put his impressive map up on the wall and he'd stacked his impressive politics books on the bed and he put his shirt and tie on and he was trying to look his Zoom best. And then in the middle of his live BBC interview, his absolutely delightful children rock in through the door. And like, we all laughed at this guy. Like we had to go, oh, that's funny. But like, we are this guy now. Yeah, so like we have all had our versions of that experience over the last year. I've had cats Zoom bombing workshops. I've had parcel deliveries knocking at the door. Grace has had builders walking in and out of shot in the back of workshops, all that kind of stuff. You didn't know about that one, did you, Elena? Look at your face as we're carrying on. And actually, I think not only is this stuff okay, but I think it's good. I think it's encouraged us to set aside this kind of myth of perfectionism that maybe some of us had felt that we needed to be trapped into before. So I really like this Leonard Cohen quote, which is kind of just like trying to realize that it isn't going to be perfect. And those of us who particularly struggled with being sort of Belbin completer finishers and perfectionists, like kind of the rules have changed a bit, and maybe they've changed in a healthy way as well. Those of us who find cutting corners hard, particularly as we've kind of reworked things and we've had to learn how to do things in new ways, maybe procedures have changed, systems have changed, standards have changed. Again, some of us are having to kind of get used to that and feel our way. I'm doing quite well at the moment, but I'm still adjusting as well. So just remembering maybe that, you know, we're still passionate and we're dedicated to our work and we want to do great things, but like we don't want to crush ourselves at the same time as well. So Voltaire is reminding us there that perfect is the enemy of the good. Those of you who struggle with procrastination will kind of know about that one as well. And Cheryl's got her version there as well. Done is better than perfect. So this is the kind of mental adjusting that we're still having to do and we're still having to make as we kind of embrace this new world of work that we're already in and the world of work that's going to be happening over the coming months and years as well. I just want to say a last couple of general points, and then we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about what we've been doing within the Think Productive team over the last couple of years. And you can see that Elena's unmuted herself in preparation for the team play. No, I need you in this bit.
God, what could I do?
So the kind of realizing that particularly over the months in the early days of lockdown, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't under our control, that was chaotic, that was changeable. And some of us had to kind of expand our zone of acceptance a little bit in order to not let that feel like it was overwhelming us. And a lot of us in that sort of turmoil of overwhelm and fatigue, a lot of us are finding decision fatigue kicking in. We're finding our creativity being sapped. We're finding our motivation is different than it was as well. So we're just encouraging people more than we ever did before to keep an eye on this particular ninja characteristic, the human, not superhero, because it's being particularly challenged both by the circumstances, but also by all the changes as well. What I don't want to do is lose sight, though, of all the benefits. There's been some wonderful changes, I think, already. When we've been doing our working from home sessions, there's been a lot of people reporting the good things that they've really liked over the last year. So the change of lifestyles that have come around losing a commute, the reduction of traveling, perhaps being able to flex working hours a little bit, to suddenly have this huge blanket permission to do things in a different way and to try things using different tools. And to have this little sort of glimpse that we get through our Teams and Zooms rectangles into what's going on in people's lives and their households. I think we'll look back on that, and in the long term, we'll see that as being a really positive benefit of the changes that we've gone through as well. So I want to talk a little bit more about Think Productive. Elena, can you tell us a little bit more about trust and kindness are our rocket fuel? Because it's one of our really most important company values for today's topic, I think.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't expected to be asked.
No, that's fine.
It guides everything that we do. We really do believe that even though it can feel scary, it is that kind of lubricant that makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, and it's become like even more of a mantra this year, I think, and particularly how like internally, you know, we're an SME scale business, how internally we've had to adapt, like many of our customers and clients or divisions and departments within our clients have had to adapt. This has kind of been our mantra for how we've worked out how to do the last year. So in terms of our kind of remote comms agenda, you know, we've been out there helping other organizations in terms of working out how they can sort of put all these new tools into play in a way that's actually helpful, rather than those new tools being part of the problem, which is what some other people have been reporting. So a lot of internal Think Productive comms is on Slack. It's been on Slack for years before the world changed, but I think that what we found with Slack is it's really helped us embrace the asynchronous ways that we're working a lot now. So, you know, different team members are working different patterns around household and lifestyle. And it means that we don't all have to be online all at the same time, but we can still get stuff done with people dipping in and out. It's also taken a lot of the heat out of email. And we use, as well as for transacting work, we're using the Slack in two very particular ways around the human, not superhero. So we have a kudos channel where people share congratulations and thanks and appreciations for our colleagues. And we, in our Wellbeing channel, we have a regular thing called Truth Tuesday, which has really evolved quite quickly over lockdown. And it really is that kind of, how you doing, where you are, how's your well-being doing, what's going on for you this week kind of thread. And we were already a pretty open and transparent team before lockdown, I think, Elena, but boy, have we been open and transparent over the last year in a good way. What's your experience of Truth Tuesday been like?
Yeah, I think, well, it's just so helpful to know where everyone's at. And there's just so much going on in people's lives. And I know we're all getting to see that now a lot more through all the Zooms, like you literally can see into people's homes. But actually taking the time to share a little bit about what's going on in your world, I just think, it has helped us to connect more on an even deeper level.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the other way we've been doing that is kind of with the Zoom. So as you can imagine, we pay quite a lot of attention to our own virtual meetings practices, given that we go out and help other organizations with that. So we've got our Zooms for the actual transaction of work very tight. But what that does mean is that people aren't all Zoomed out. So actually a lot of the Zooms that we do are more around this human, not superhero thing. So you've got a little bit of a screenshot there from our Christmas quiz where we brought everyone together. I just like to say again, I won the quiz prize, which I was not expecting. And using the Zoom as an actual source of that joy and community and that sort of collaboration around the well-being side has been something that I think we've really paid attention to. And I just realized it's you and me, Elena, that are the two mental health first aiders for TP still. So yeah, I hadn't planned our personnel for this afternoon's workshop that way, but that's something that we've been committed to for several years now. I think I did mine 4 years ago, and you were about the same kind of period of time.
2 years, yeah, for me, I think. Yeah, really good.
So yeah, I would thoroughly recommend those courses as well from Mental Health First Aid England.
Yeah.
If we've got any other fellow mental health first aiders in the chat, let us know. How else have we been implementing trust and kindness in our rocket fuel? Sometimes we all need an emergency stop. So this is a quote from our colleague Graham, who's the founder of Think Productive. And probably it's like my most appreciated bit of everything that Graham has ever said in any of his books, which is people first, work second, always. And not only over the last year, but in the years prior to that, I think pretty much every single one of the Think Productive team has had a point where something has happened in their life and they've needed to step off. And the great thing I know about working in this organization is when those moments come, like I know my colleagues have got my back, because throughout all levels of the organization, it's died into our wool. So, you know, my story is I have a daughter. Our daughter's 12. She's had some quite significant mental health and physical health difficulties for a number of years, going back about 6 or 7 years. The waves of that have gone up and down over the years. There's been at least 2 times where I've had to basically say to Think Productive, I'm off for a month, see ya. And the team have made that happen for me. And then there's been other periods of time where I've needed to go part-time for several months as well. And again, working in an organization where people kind of cherish that people first, work second always has been really, really important to me. That's my daughter and wife there. I've obviously redacted faces because this is going up on the YouTube. That's one of Bristol Children's Hospital's amazing therapy dogs. If you've never encountered a therapy dog in hospital, they produce the most amazing amounts of joy. What's your view, Elena, of this kind of we've got each other's backs from a leadership point of view? Because it could seem quite challenging.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for sharing these pictures with us, Lee. I do
have permission, by the way.
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah, I would say I think it's completely natural and normal to, as a manager, to feel that opening up the doors to all this personal stuff at work is just going to be messy and distracting. And yeah, I'd say it is that. But on the flip side, it just brings people together. And as a manager and team member, like as I said, you get to know people's context. So if they seem grumpy on a team huddle, you know, you kind of know why, or you ask, and you know you can trust each other to have that level of confidence in each other. And in our experience, you know, when people feel trusted and valued and know that they can open up like that, they give back tenfold.
Absolutely.
You know,
and because everyone's had their turn, sometimes it's our turn to step up for other people and they step up for us. So
yeah, guilt-free. And like, you know, I had a pretty shit January, if I'm honest. A week into homeschooling, which was already hard, and I pressed the emergency stop button to drop from 4 days to 2 days a week, just to stay sane. And a week into that, in January, I got a phone call out of the blue telling me that I had breast cancer. Yeah, not a great moment. It's been dealt with now, thank God, thank you NHS. But I knew it was just so helpful to know that the team had my back and that I could go to all the hospital appointments and just focus on getting better and not worry about feeling guilty. So yeah, and it was an opportunity for the team to kind of come together and step up. And so I'm forever grateful for Think Productive and what we've built as a team.
And what I loved is that this isn't just a sentence that Graham wrote in a book. Like, we have proof. Every single one of the members of our team has got our own personal story around the fact that we live and breathe this. So, you know, today's workshop is a little bit different. I'm sure when we get to the Q&A in a minute, people will go, well, this sounds great, but not all workplaces are like this. Well, yeah, we know not all workplaces are like this, which is why we want to start a movement and, you know, get people out there championing this kind of thing, because we think it's a really important part of the kind of thriving, healthy workplaces that we want to see. Last example, we kind of covered this a little bit in some of the chat so far, but like the mental health, welfare, mental health agenda has always been a really important part of the team at Think Productive. We've got 2 people, you know, in a reasonably small organization, 2 people is quite a big ratio around the mental health first aiders. But the fact that we've created this culture where it doesn't need to be the kind of, I need to pretend it's all fine, I can't share that it's difficult, or I can't possibly tell people at work that it's really difficult, you know, the stories that both Elena and I have shared. We have a very permission-led culture, which is like, people can just say, do you know what, I'm having a bad day today, can I get back to you in a couple of hours? And we still get great things done. I mean, you know, we travel the country and the internet's helping other organizations get good work done. But I think the fact that we are able to do that authentically is because we do a lot of this stuff ourselves. And, you know, today's session is about feeling okay to share that with the world as well. In terms of last couple of messages for our starter thoughts on Human Not Superhero, and then we're going to open the floor up to Q&A and chat. So have your own thoughts and questions and contributions ready. I want to share a little bit of productivity advice from my nan, because I don't know whether this is my actual nan, by the way. Pictures not posed by models. You probably worked out, therefore that's me.
So tell it's you.
As age 7 or 8. So my nan was like, get to bed early, eat your greens, get some fresh air, go for a walk, get off that telly, you know. And this was like mid-70s, like she couldn't possibly have imagined the things that would come in terms of digital overload. But like, you know, a lot of us are tempted to not listen to our nans. So this idea of fueling, I think is really, really important. So I sort of think about 3 levels of fueling. Like, so the one that comes up quite a lot is the sort of tactical fueling, you know, screen breaks. Are you having lunch? Are you drinking however many fluid ounces of water that you're supposed to drink each day? And I think that stuff really does matter. But I think the tactical fueling conversation maybe pushes out thoughts about the 2 other levels of fueling that I think are really, really important. So we talk in some of our other sessions about, like, they're quite fans of things like mindfulness and meditation, but we also realize that it's not for everyone. So I think of this as like operational fueling. It's kind of the middle layer. So, you know, what have you got, whether it's hobbies or sports or activities or family time or crafts? Francis there saying flying my kites.
Oh, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a different Francis.
Different
Sorry.
Francis, yeah, there you go.
It's our Francis, but that is very cool.
Those really big kites terrify me though, because I always think they're going to take off with me. You know, let's make sure you're not neglecting what is your sort of operational level fueling activity, particularly in the last year when things have been very intense. And then the other one I think I've been encouraging people to keep an eye on is their sort of deep fuel. So I found this year where people have had a lot of things going on in work life, and then depending on your household circumstances, a lot of people have had lots of things going on at home. I think the way that a lot of people have been tempted to kind of make it work is by ditching the thing that was just for them, because they feel like, oh, that's the thing I can get rid of without anyone noticing, or that feels like a guilty luxury. So as well as the tactical fueling, the operational fueling, like making sure that you're bringing back that deep fuel activity. So for me, it's going running, and I can't wait until retreat centres opening up again so I can go on silent retreats. For other people, it might be pets or community or family. So make sure you're not neglecting that side of things as well. So last couple of words before we invite your questions and discussion. This characteristic of human, not superhero, is the one that we've been sharing today from our 9 characteristics of the Productivity Ninja. I think you've probably got the message from today's session that being a Productivity Ninja doesn't mean you're expected to be superhuman, but it might give you some interesting skills. Oh yeah, should we?
Sorry about the lipstick marks, but
I don't have any lipstick marks. I wiped them off.
Oh, you've got yours.
Yeah. But you know, we still feel we've got some amazing things that we can share with people, so they can get their great work done using their skills and their passion and their attention, but they can do it in a way that's happy, healthy, and sustainable. So this is the last little quote from Graham, which I'd say is up there in my top 3 as well. You know, productivity is making space for what matters, and you choose to interpret what matters. And I think that's very much on our minds for today's session, as well as in recent weeks and months as well. So we've got 10 minutes left of the advertised 45-minute session. So we plan to kind of just really open the floor.
Sorry.
This is how sad I am that we're into the final 10 minutes. I think I remember that. I was about 6. And I think we've been out for a family walk, and I think I jumped in too many muddy puddles. This is way pre-Peppa Pig days. Yeah. And I think I had very, very wet socks inside my willies. And it was also winter, as you can tell from the 70s.
Very cool parka. Yeah.
That was what we had then. That was basically kids' coats with that or duffel coats. That was all we had. What are you doing in that one? What's your picture?
Yeah, so that was taken a few weeks ago. I did a beginner's rollerblading class. On Brighton seafront.
How many times did you fall over?
No, none. I had all the padding though, all the padding. Yeah, but it was really, do you know what? It was amazing to learn how to stop. It was just changed everything.
Do you want to pick us some questions from the Q&A or bring in some?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, let's do it. Sorry. I do want to share something that I saw on the chat that our Productivity Ninja Grace said, which seems to be going down well. I remember...
She should have done this session then.
I remember an occupational psychologist telling me that burnout equals exhaustion minus joy. Deep fuel is what brings us joy and prevents burnout.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a protective as well as a sustainative kind of aspect to where that deep fuel comes from. But because it's kind of just for us, it's the thing that we can get away with not doing without anyone noticing. they will eventually notice for sure.
So I love this question from Joanna. Are you genuinely human? I really want to know whether you work long, stressful hours just to get stuff done.
Should I tell the world what's been happening in my life this week?
Go on then. Yeah.
I've not done a lot of work this week other than preparing for this session, because we were about to move house. And then at the last minute, the house we were buying fell through. So the last 3 or 4 days, I'd had to hit a small scale emergency stop whilst we tried to find an emergency place to rent, which I solved about 20 minutes before this workshop went live. So no, we don't work long hours. And, you know, part of our duties to each other as team members in Think Productive, and also Elena and Jess and everyone else that looks after us, is to help us keep an eye on that. And that's why, you know, we have people that have been with TP for 10, 11 years in Elena and my case. And I've got no intention of going anywhere because I've been able to sustain I've been able to sustain myself through some pretty tricky times family wise, because I know I've got a workplace that's going to support me, and in return I hope I've been able to do some great things for the TP team and for those TP customers out there as well. I know there's people there who've been in workshops with me as well. Pick another question for us.
Yeah, I just would say, I rarely work long hours. It's like, and I make sure that the team are the same. So when we have like a deadline, a really hard deadline, not one that we've given ourselves, like one where it's a client delivery, okay, we've got to do this. Then yes, maybe we will work, but honestly, it's like a couple of times a year.
And then there'll be recovery phase afterwards.
Straight away.
Yeah, everyone will consciously and deliberately back off the gas for a few days after one of those.
Actually, at today's morning huddle, we have a question where we ask whether anyone's got any stucks. And my stuck this morning was to our graphic designer, Klein, because I'd seen, he's based in the Philippines, and I had seen what I thought was him online on a PowerPoint, one of the PowerPoints, at what would have been like 3 a.m. or something for him. So I just had to check in. It was like, you weren't working
what are you doing?
At 3 in the morning, were you? And he was like, no, don't worry, it must have been just my phone or something. I was like, okay. Because
I think that's another way that
it's urgent, but it can wait a few more days, it's fine. Just making that clear.
I think it's another way that we've got our other back. So like, you know, a lot of our internal Think Productive talking to each other is on Slack. You know, my TP email is only ever really customers and stuff about workshops and stuff. So like, we're all very, very conscious of that digital unplugging. You know, we go out and teach that to people. So like, it would be thoroughly inauthentic if we didn't live that lifestyle as well. We can do about another 3 or 4 minutes before I have to do the formal wrap up.
Oh, okay.
But we've always done 15 minutes of after show on these anyway. So pick us another one.
Oh gosh, I'm just lots of questions asking if we have jobs going. Do you have any tips on changing culture among operational and frontline teams who need to ensure compliance, safeguarding, risk management, etc., and look after it themselves and each other?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one where like your job is about ensuring the safety of other people. I just sort of interpret that as widely as possible. Like, you know, the desire to get that right is going to be extremely strong. But I think that my initial response would be, well, let's look at the long-term game. You know, those people in those kind of jobs are making really important decisions that affect other people's lives. If they have not been looking after themselves in order to be in the best possible place to do that, stuff is going to start going wrong. So, you know, I would hope in organizations like that, you know, employers, HR colleagues are probably more sensitive to the kind of agenda that we've been talking about today, because, you know, that's tough kind of work. I mean, what's the worst that can go wrong in my work job? Like, you know, a workshop falls over on Zoom or something like that. You know, everyone's going to be fine, maybe just annoyed, but like in other kind of jobs, that's important stuff as well. Give us another one.
We have, this is a very common question. How do you develop the ability to say no?
Start once. Right. So
yeah,
you will know, because we've worked together for a long time, that I am still working on this one. And I used to be a lot worse at it than I am now. and just kind of building up that saying no muscle, whether it's saying no to colleagues or, you know, just not today because this is happening, or not right now, or I can do this amount of it, or have you asked so-and-so, or could we tell the customer this, you know, that kind of stuff. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be once you start practicing saying no. People, first of all, get used to relearning your responses. They go, oh, that's a bit different. He's saying no about stuff. So they're a bit more used to it the next time you do it. And guess what? Most of the time, people are happy. If you say, oh, well, we can't do all of that, but we could do this. Is that enough? They always go, yeah. Because, you know, usually you were over-promising in the first point anyway as well. So letting go of that guilt and that kind of, well, of course I'm expected to say yes, because that's just what it's like the rules are. That's, you know, having this seminar today is kind of us trying to contribute to people feeling okay to make that shift.
I just want to thank you, Lee. There's a couple of questions around well-being and the 4-day week. We do have a recording of a webinar that I did with Jess on our 4-day week, and The Secret to a Happy Team, I think it's called. So that is on YouTube, and I talk all about the virtuous circle of well-being and productivity and rest and all of that. So also there's a couple of really good blog posts that I might share on the chat. Grace Marshall, if you're still there, I think you wrote a really good one about busyness. There's someone here who's saying, due to a restructure, I have a new manager who opens every conversation with how busy they are. How do I ensure I don't get caught up in that lunch is for wimps mantra?
Well, send them the YouTube recording of this session.
Yeah. Oh, and Work Fuel, the book.
Yeah, definitely. So we're at 1 minute before the advertised end of this session. So what Elena and I are going to do is just formally tie this up for those of you who need to go. But we've always done after show on all of these sessions, and we'll kind of look to see when the room starts to empty. So for those of you who have another Zoom to go to straight after this, if you want more, keep in touch. Elena and I's contact details are there on the screen. You can find Elena and I both on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter as well, at Lee Cottier. I'm not there too often though. We will get back to you, but if you email either of us at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, believe me, we won't see it for a bit. If you want more free stuff, then just as Elena has said, the 4-day week and all the other monthly free sessions we've done over the last year are all archived on the Think Productive YouTube channel. And we've got 3 more sessions coming up monthly. So we've got Matthew, how to concentrate and get some actual work done. We've got Graham doing a bit of a sort of debugging session called Unstick Your Productivity. And Haley's looking at how to delegate in November as well. You can find all of those and book on the website. If you want slightly above free, I think I must now be one of the only members of our team that hasn't written a book, and I'm quite happy with that. But Graham and Colette Hennigan have co-authored.
I'm not planning on writing one.
You're not planning on one.
No way.
Yeah, you just create whole improv shows though, don't you? So at least you don't have to write those.
But that's much easier than writing a book.
If you're interested in the nutrition and energy aspect, Graham and Colette have got how to have the energy. And Grace, my colleague who's on the session today, it's been wonderful to have her quiet support in the background. She has written an amazing book called Struggle, which came out a couple of weeks ago now, and I would thoroughly recommend it because it's very, very connected to some of the sort of the perhaps more deeper sharing that we've been doing during this session as well. And then if you want other stuff, is if you've actually got budget and you want to us to come in and help your team, then head to the website. You can check out the full range. Particularly, we sort of topical for the coming months are the leading hybrid teams and supercharge your team comms session. And we'll have the 2nd generation of our Productivity Ninjas Guide to Working from Home session coming out in the next week or 2, which is looking forward to the sort of new world of hybrid and blended learning as well. So do keep in touch, those of you who've got a scoot. But for the rest of you, we'll just carry on taking questions until 3 o'clock when I have to go into dad mode because a small person will appear back through the door. So if you're leaving us, and for the YouTubes, if you're staying, don't stop the video now because there might be some more interesting stuff to come.
Yeah. For people, bye everyone that's leaving. Thank you for sticking with us till the nearly end. And thanks for all the comments. Lots of great ideas as well. There does seem to be some organisations that have bought into Wellbeing and the People First mantra. That's great to see.
I wasn't able to pay attention to the chat as much as you were, but I was seeing there was a lot of love.
It's really hard to do both, I'll just say. Multitasking is a myth.
Oh, it's terrible. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But there you go. Can I have a look at the question panel and see what?
Yeah, go on then.
Dennis, how can we help leaders understand the value of well-being? It was pointed at you. Do you want to answer that one?
Well, yeah. Well, I've kind of said go and watch the video on the 4-day week. Well-being is everything, and you know, people are gonna if you've got people that are well and happy, they're just gonna perform better, and it's better for everyone. It's win-win. And it just makes life much more pleasant as well.
Zoe's asked, how do you deal with the pressure you put on yourself and the feelings of not doing enough? That one I struggled with for many years, and I think that was because, you know, you can see what I was like at age 6. I've got a picture on the screen there. You know, I used to, you know, I must get everything right. You know, I must be doing my best and stuff. And I entered the workplace, you know, after uni in my 20s. And I would say for my early and mid 20s, and possibly in my early 30s as well, I basically got all of this stuff incredibly wrong. And, you know, I had some corners knocked off the edge of me as a result of that. And it wasn't until I sort of had those experiences that I realized, like, you know, you do need to look after yourself. And, you know, I've no idea what age we're all going to be allowed to retire at now, but it's going to be several decades more even for me. And I think it was when I sort of stopped measuring my success and contribution like on a sort of daily, weekly, monthly scale. And I started looking at what my efforts were doing on a yearly, 5-yearly, decade scale, and whether that's my efforts in work or whether it's my efforts in my family or my community. And I think you're much more willing to kind of say no to the tactical stuff because you've got your eye more on the sort of maybe more meaningful strategic stuff as well. That was a bit of a witter, but it was a true answer. What else have we spotted in the chat or in Q&A, Elena?
For those of us studying, we haven't read this one, have we? For those of us studying and doing a full-time job, it's really hard to get both work and uni done whilst still finding time to do things you enjoy, or without feeling guilty about not doing one of them. Any recommendations for balancing all three? And this is from Isabel.
You will need to reduce the portions of at least 1 or 2 or 3 of those. So, you know, I work with quite a lot of universities as clients, whether that's staff or we work with business schools with like MBA candidates or postgraduate researchers. And like that juggle is particularly challenging. So I think you've got to work out how much of you is that you can share across those 3. So, you know, are you going to need to talk to employers about reduced hours, reduced responsibilities? How you just need to work out how much energy you've got to put into the study course and get like really nimble and ruthless around that. But the one I wouldn't cut is the well-being one, because that's the one that will give you the fuel to do the other 2. But the irony is that's the one that people are most tempted to cut because they think it's the easiest one to get rid of. So
I never ever feel guilty about doing stuff that I enjoy ever. Maybe I'm a bit unusual, but yeah, like I just say at home, you know, sorry, if you want a happy mum, I need to go.
And, you know, and I've had periods of my life where like I wasn't a happy dad and I wasn't a happy husband. And whenever those have happened, it's because like I've either taken on too much or stuff has been going on and I haven't been able to adapt my work around it. Or I haven't given myself the stuff I need for that deep fuel. And like, it's when you notice it and you go, oh, it's happening again, but you know how to correct it. So yeah, keeping an eye on it is really, really important. We still got over 100 people here. So
wow. I actually need to head off to a meeting, Lee.
You should go then.
Yeah. It's not going to close everyone down, is it?
No, you can just drop out. You're a panelist.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
let's say goodbye to Elena, everyone, and then we'll do 5
Bye.
more minutes. And then if there's anybody still here after 5 minutes, we'll wrap it up because I need to get ready for the arrival of small people home from school run. So bye, Elena.
Bye. Oh, I'm recording. Is that going to make a difference?
Just mute your screen and turn your camera
I'm
off.
going to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Cool. So what else have we got? If I go to open questions, Charlotte says, how can you upward manage a culture of human, not superhero? Yeah. This is always an interesting challenge. So whenever anyone books workshops, often the people who come on the workshop will say, that was great, it was really useful, but gosh, I wish my boss or so-and-so's boss or the bosses had been on it as well. So, you know, we've got hundreds of people here today, a range of people, like whether or not you're a specialist doing your thing, or you're a team leader, or you're a manager, like we are bringing you this message of human, not superhero. We love you to see you implement it at all levels of influence in your organization. You know, Elena's RMD, like we work in an organization where this stuff has sort of seeped into the core. But I guarantee you that leader who maybe seems unopen to this message of human, not superhero, I guarantee you they're struggling. I guarantee you they're the person who is suffering all that imposter syndrome, having to work late hours, like feeling crushed, feeling overwhelmed. And if you can just get a crack to sort of introduce the idea, they might be the person who more than ever has been waiting for this agenda to kind of be brought to the surface and to be brought into the light. But it requires a lot of readiness to be open and honest and to share how you're getting on as well. So I would say, Charlotte, do what you can in the part of the universe you can influence right now, and also do what you can to let others who perhaps might be the ones most in need of these messages to hear them. And this recording will be up on the YouTube link within 24 hours, as I should imagine. If there's any other questions, drop them in either the chat or the Q&A. Otherwise, I think we might wrap up in the next minute or so. It's been great to see all sorts of people whose names I recognise from previous workshops and previous clients as well. Francis has just shared something from Hannah. A productivity culture change often starts with you making a decision yourself. How can we encourage other people to do the same? It could make our team perform better overall. And it feels like it should be their own idea to make those changes. Okay, I hadn't seen this question when I answered the last one, but I think it's maybe just sharing with them the fact that this message exists, and I think you'll find that more people are open to jumping on board with this than we might suspect. They've probably been waiting for the opportunity for this big out breath, and as soon as it's laid out to them as not only a possibility but something that could be ultimately good for us all, I would hope that they would be open to it. There you go. Excellent. I think we will wrap up at that point. There are 76 of you still on the session, but you've got contact details from myself and Elena. This recording will go up onto the Think Productive YouTube channel within about 24 hours, giving Francis some nice human, not superhero breathing space in order to be able to do that. And not only will you find this session, but you'll find the recordings of all the other similar monthly tasters that we have done every month over the last 15 months. And guess what? We've got no intention of stopping them either. So thanks, everyone. Great for joining us, and we'll stay human and hope to see you soon. I should have some closing outro music, shouldn't I? I don't think we've got one, but there you go. Excellent. Right, thank you very all. I'm going to sign off and close the session at this point. Do stay in touch, but I'm taking the rest of the afternoon off. So if you email me immediately after this, you won't see me until tomorrow. All right, bye all.